What's good, YouTube? It's the brownest boy you know, aka 4Aver, and today we finally get to talk about weapons. This was my third most anticipated movie of the year, right behind Superman and Fantastic Four, and a big part of that has been the generational hype behind this movie. Jordan Peele fired his management team because he didn't win the bidding war on this movie. That's kind of crazy. It also got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes when it first dropped. Now it has gone down since, but that is saying a lot for a horror movie, and I can kind of see why. This movie really stands out compared to a lot of other horror movies. The way it's presented, the tone, the horror elements, and a laundry list of other aspects to this movie make it feel very unique. One of the main takeaways from this movie is just that we're seeing the birth of a new horror director with Zach Cregger. Me personally, I can't wait to see more of this guy's work. I liked Barbarian a lot. I would say definitely check that out if you like this movie. Weapons is loosely similar to Barbarian, and a lot of the fun for me in this movie was seeing how his style has kind of evolved or been reshaped since that movie. If you've seen Barbarian, there's a very distinct switch up in that movie, and this movie has like 8 of those. Probably less, I don't know, but you know, you get the point.
This is a gallon of PCP.
Wow!
The way we're told the story is split up based on the characters and how they kind of tie into the plot. I was definitely skeptical of this approach. You know, movies sometimes will have this non-linear storytelling fashion, but some stories are just meant to be told chronologically. A, B, C. Not Candyland, okay? However, in Weapons, this approach works phenomenally. Each chapter feels tonally unique, and they all give good insight into the characters' headspace and where they're at in life, their motivations, you know. This approach really keeps the audience on their toes. Some of the chapters lean more into a horror tone, but some of the chapters lean into more of a comedy horror tone, and I will say this movie is surprisingly funny. This movie is so funny that the audience was actually laughing at points I did not think were intended to be funny, but I don't know, I went to go see this at Arizona Mills, and the people there are kind of... This movie kind of kills it in any area it wants to. When it was scary, my audience was really scared. When it was funny, my audience was very like happy and laughing along with it. There was no real point in the experience where it felt like it had lost its audience at all. We were captivated the whole time. There's also some gruesome violence in there, which your boy was very happy with. And that was also a part of Barbarian. These technical pieces of body horror. People getting their head smashed in, blood just being everywhere. That's definitely one of the directorial traits of Zach Cregger, I would say. It's just like body parts being smushed, people dying in really weird ways. The sense of realism as well in Barbarian, and also Weapons. A lot more in Weapons, I would say. This entire movie does feel like it takes place in our time, like today. And the comedy is sort of playing off that, but the horror especially is. This is a very timely movie. And I think a lot of the horror also comes from the implication.
She's not gonna say no. She would never say no because of the implication.
The longer it sits with you, the more you think about just how bad of a hand these characters were dealt. Some of these characters just get done so dirty. Shout out the boy Wong. He gets done pretty dirty.
Fuck it though, bro. It's your life.
If you don't have the thickest skin when it comes to kids being in harm's way, this movie will get to you pretty easily. I would call it the Exorcist of our generation for a few reasons. 1. Because a lot of the horror depicts children being in bad circumstances, we'll say for now. 2. Because I think this movie is a lot scarier if you're a parent. When I went to go watch this, there was a dad watching it with his son, and walking in I was like, oh man, this kid's gonna be so scared. He has no idea what's coming for him. But honestly, after watching it, I think the dad probably left more scared. And 3, because he really just had to be there on release to get the full effect. It's a bit of a mystery how this movie is gonna age, but I think it is a lot more potent in theaters right now than it will be in 5 years on your Apple VR or your Neuralink or your fridge TV. What also adds to the sense of horror in this movie is the lack of romance in the approach. This movie is very grim, very dismal. I would almost call it like a brutalist approach where it's just very story oriented. Outside of maybe the opening scene, I don't think there's very many scenes that feel like passionate, but that's not a bad thing. This movie just serves to communicate this story that's at play here, and that story is very much deserving of the approach and how it is presented. You know, a lot of directors will approach their movies with a sense of like love for the characters of the story or like what's going on in the movie, but it feels like Zach Cregger has like almost a disdain for this town. Like he just wants to inflict as much pain and sorrow and grief on these characters as humanly possible. There really isn't a protagonist in this movie either. I mean, the characters all sort of work together to defeat the antagonist of the story, but I would not call Julia Gardner or Josh Brolin's characters like heroes at all. Julia Gardner is a full-blown alcoholic. She spends like 90% of her time in this movie in a liquor store. But at the same time, I did find myself rooting for her pretty easily when she's trying to find these kids. She does feel heroic, just in a really lame sort of way. You know, in a horror movie like this, you would want a strong protagonist to kind of hold the viewer's hand, but in Weapons, the viewer is left completely stranded. If anything, you know, these characters are kind of kicking dirt into the audience's eyes at times. It was also very interesting going from Julia Gardner as the Silver Surfer to Julia Gardner in this as just a normal person. I have to say, she does feel like a completely different character. Josh Brolin, too, is kind of taking an interesting role here. Usually he's playing a strong, you know, tough guy. Think about who he is in Dune or in like any other movie. Thanos, I guess, too.
And this movie, too.
Even though he's smart, he's kind of a weakling in this movie. He has really let his life go because of the grief of losing his son to this weird scenario, I guess. But it is different from his average role, which I have a lot of respect for. I feel like a lot of actors are just so comfortable in their little niches nowadays. It's just good to see someone who has been acting for so long still have that sort of fire, that Mamba mentality, if you get what I mean. There is no protagonist in this movie. However, there is definitely an antagonist, and the imbalance of power between the antagonist and the rest of the characters in this movie really added to the sense of like hopelessness. Like I said, the sense of realism is very distinct here, and that is due in part to the performances of the surrounding cast. They all did a great job of just feeling very real and grounded. These characters feel like people you could see in real life. I wouldn't call them one-dimensional, but they don't really have any arcs or anything. They kind of just serve to be puzzle pieces in the story of this movie, and that story is completely captivating in a bizarre, horrific kind of way. This movie very much hinges itself on its ability to have the story impact the viewer, and it definitely does. If you watch this movie and the story doesn't engage you even a little bit, then wipe yourself off, man, because you dead. I personally was very interested in the themes of this movie. A lot of people predicted this would be an allegory for a certain thing that I can't say on YouTube or I'll get banned for life. I'll just call it a pool pooping for now. Read between the lines if you have to. 17 kids go missing and don't come back again, and the movie is called Weapons. Also, big rest in peace to Trevor Moore. I have not seen a ton of his work. I like the sketch where he says that it's illegal to say that I want to kill the President of the United States of America.
I was just telling you that it's illegal to say, I want to kill the President of the United States of America.
Wow!
Kreger wrote this as a sort of way to help him in the grieving process of losing Trevor Moore. I mean, the two came up into the film industry together, and there is a lot of references to Trevor Moore in this movie. I personally was very interested to see if any of like Trevor Moore's conspiracies made their way into this movie, and I guess I don't know. I do really want to see more of Zach Kreger as a director, given how many young, talented directors just seem to throw their careers into the fucking burning pit of fire that Hollywood has become. I hope that Zach Kreger can stick it out with his career and make it work in the long run, but seeing as he is already getting his hands on a massive IP with his next movie being Resident Evil, I could easily see him becoming another brick in the wall of lost potential 21st century directors. But for now, this movie was a fun-ass time. I'm gonna get more into the allegory this movie is portraying, so I will be going into spoilers right now, but if you don't want to hear about any of that, then I will see you in the outro. 3, 2, 1.
I really think someone out there should kill the President of the United States of America.
We're gonna DRAX. SKLOUNST.
Let's talk about the meat and potatoes of this movie, the pool pooper. You have the fact that the police don't get too involved with this case. It seems like they kind of just feel like the answer will come to them someday. They don't have any like real sense of justice. There's also a scene in this movie with a giant AK-47 in the sky. One of the reasons the kids go missing is because they bully one of their classmates. Not totally, but you know, there's a little pinch of that. The people who are affected by this tragedy are very grief-stricken and kind of look for whoever they can say is a culprit and just put a bunch of hate towards them. And in this movie, that's Julia Gardner. The parents of the kids who go missing kind of seek vengeance in their own way. That's another thing. This event is treated like a sort of tragedy. It is a very severe hit to this town. They have memorials that look like memorials that would be held at schools that were, you know, pooped on, I guess. What adds to this allegory in the saddest way, quite possibly, is the fact that life just keeps going for some people. If they weren't in this tragedy, and even if they were, there's still bills to pay, shit shit to do, money to make. You know, 17 kids go missing and there's no trace of them, but at the end of the day, you still gotta get paid. It is also said that the kids that get found after going missing, spoilers, don't really talk too much. Some of them don't talk at all. Some of them are just barely starting to talk again. It's kind of left up to interpretation whether or not it's because they were like mind controlled or because they're just so grief stricken. In reality, it's probably a mix of both, but you can see how that kind of mirrors real life, you know, school poopings. All that being said, I don't think this movie is really saying anything about school poopings. I think it's more just using it as a vehicle to tell the story. There's no one saying like, oh, you shouldn't do drugs or you shouldn't litter. Like, if anything, doing drugs help these kids get found. So what is that saying? But if you think differently, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, that is the end of the spoiler section for now. I'm gonna give this movie a solid 8 out of 10. And that 8 is standing on business, okay? It is not a 7, and I don't think it's a 9. It's very comfortable at an 8, 10 toes down, if you feel me, you know, mess with me. But yeah, I had a great time with this movie. Like I said, very fresh, very original. This movie, along with Sinners, got a lot of hype, and I would say Sinners is a little bit overrated personally, but I think Weapons is worth the hype. I think these movies getting the amount of praise they do on release is just kind of a subset of the fact that people are just sick and tired of sequels. When they get something original, they go crazy. So I'm gonna leave it at that. If you like this video, then like the video. If you like the content of my channel, hit me with a subscribe. I got some good things coming for y'all. I'm gonna keep this content coming forever. Again, I'm leaving my socials on screen. Follow my TikTok, my Instagram, my Twitter. Mess with me. Tap in, tap in, tap in. And do not ask how long I'm gonna make content for, because you already know it's forever. Peace out for now, and rest in peace to King Cobra.
Suck it!